Okay, now if you remember in our last episode, I said that I had to change your heart and I wanted to take off the latch and polish it up and hit it with some clear lacquer, and I also did the same thing to the brass work on the handle. So that's all done. That's all back on and ready to go. So kind of done that off the camera, so let's start putting some other pieces on. Alright, let's get started. I guess what we could do first is that there's a piece that's actually like a little piece of masonite that helps support the broadcast wave bank that goes where my fingers are right here. And here's the piece right here. Okay, I don't know how well it's coming through on the camera. There's two tabs on here which actually the wave magnet will clip in here, and it goes like this, just like this. And there are 5 screws on the back, little brass screws. So let's go ahead and put that in. Okay, the next thing I'd like to do is something that we didn't do when we initially took it apart. And I've been doing these to my personal 600 series radios. I'd like to make the dial-light work. Okay, and I did a video on this a couple years ago. How you can do just a real simple mod to basically, this is a 1.5 volt light. If you can see down here, let me get the pointer so I don't get berated by people who don't like me to use my finger. You see where my pointer is right here? This is a clip that was initially intended to take one of these batteries. These are all 1.5 volt batteries. You get a Zenith, or if the Zenith battery ran out on you, you go to the store and you buy one of these. And these were 1.5 volt. They called them A batteries. Well, obviously they're not, you can't find them anymore. But what we can find is this. There it is, the dreaded D battery holder. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this clip out of here. Whoop. Get the finger out of there, Bob. There it is. Alright, so we're going to remove this Phillips head screw right here. I'm going to drill a hole in here. And it's going to be a little bit offset. We can't have it right in the middle because then the battery's going to sit on top of the head of the screw, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to go maybe about 1/4 inch one side or the other of the center and drill a little hole, and then we're going to mount this battery holder and wire this in, and that should make our dial-light function. I think that's really going to make the radio stand out once we get it all back together. So let's go ahead and start on that. Okay, here it is, the magic moment. I got my hand on the switch, and let's see if it's going to work. Oh, look at that! There it is. Okay, that should light up the dial real nice. Okay, I think since the light mod is done, the next thing we'll do is go ahead and put on our logs and chart store. And here's what we did the cleaning and detailing of. We just got to get it over those little clips, and they just slide down like that. And now we have a total of 6 screws that we need to put in. And let me just add one thing here. If you look down here to the lower right, and even your L600 door will have like this little notch in here, and that was actually meant for a hinge that actually would hold this door down. Okay, now the funny thing is that the L600s didn't have that little hold down, so this is actually correct for the radio. But if you got an R, a T, a Y or A or B 600, well, guess what? You should have a little folding hatch that folds down when you open up this door, or you have to fold it down after the door is open, and that'll hold the door open here so you can read your logs and charts as you go on. So let me go ahead and put in, sorry about that, we had a battery go dead in the middle of this, but I've got the 6 screws in now. Okay, they're all just snug. You don't want to over tighten these because, again, you're going into plastic. Okay, you over tighten the plastic, they're going to crack. So now they're in, and it's starting to look like a radio again. Alright, so next step is, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and slide the chassis in there. But I'm just going to put the bolts in, the 2 bolts, one here and then the one back here. And I'm just going to set that in just loosely until we get the rest of the radio situated. Okay, as you can see, this is the back of the radio. And I've already put the chassis in the radio itself. What I want to do now is I'm just going to take the 2 screws that hold it down, and there's one in this corner and there's one in the other corner up front. And I'm just going to set these in and just put it in loose. I got to get these things located here. You don't want to tighten it because this way, you know, you'll have the screws in, but you don't really want to tighten it until you actually have the bezel in and basically everything is located. Then you can basically center the chassis to everything, and then everything will be well, basically everything will be symmetrical and right. So okay, I just have to get this just about right. I'm just gotta put them in hand tight. Okay, I have the screws in, but they're just loose. See, I can still move this around just a little bit. This way I can center and locate everything. This cord was off a little bit. There we go. That's how you want it, right? Over the top like that. Okay. So once we get everything else in there, then we can locate the chassis to everything and then sock it all down. Alright, next I'd like to install a wave rod antenna that bolts onto these 2 studs right here. I left the nuts on it so we can bolt it back on there. But before I do anything, first I want to take this antenna. I never really did anything to it, so I think I'm just going to give it a quick service. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, I just have here a little blue Kim towel. I'm going to put a little wire displacement 40 on here. Okay, and I'm just going to take the length of the wave rod and just kind of wipe it down with WD-40, and that should help free things up a little bit. Then I also want to check the end of the antenna to see if it's going to spring in and out okay. And I never did this. I should have done this prior to doing all this, but I can already see there's going to be a problem. See, when this is right, you should be able to push the antenna all the way down, and it should just go all the way down and then spring back up. Now, right now, this one isn't doing that because there's a small bend in the antenna, and I can actually see where the bend is. It's actually towards the base, and what I could do is I take this is how I do it. I mean, there's a couple ways you could do it. And take my thumb and my index finger. I got my thumb over the bottom because that's where the bend is. So you want to just put this basically where the bend is. Hold it down and bend it so it's straight and basically aligns with the rest of the antenna. Let's see if I can make this happen here. I may need 2 hands because it's really bent. Okay, well, straighter. Still a little bit bent this way. There we go. And boy, it's just here. Let me wipe some WD-40 on here. See if that doesn't help it along. Better yet, let me just go right down the antenna with it. I'm going to spray it off the side here, so you'll see it actually going on the camera. And work this back and forth a little bit. And you can see how it's freeing itself up now. That's how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to spring right up. Whoop. Now it got stuck. Oh, there it goes. So this is what you're looking for. This is what you want. You want that thing to come up and spring right up. And it's still a little bit bent. Let me see if I can get it. Here. Get it perfect here. Whoa, I just bumped the camera. There we go. That's what you want. Also, this clip is bent out too far. Here, let me see if I can bend that back a little bit. Get this on the camera so you can see. You can actually see where it's kind of bent out a little bit. Right about here. And you have to be careful. I've seen a lot of these radios where this thing is just broke off. And that's what you want right there. It's not perfect, but it should be good enough. Alright. So what should happen is you should be able to push this thing and compress the entire antenna. And then on the shank port, or the bottom section of the antenna, see this ring? And it kind of goes 3/4 of the way around the antenna. So you should be able to go like that. And then it'll stay in place until you twist it to the opening. And it should pop right up. This one's still just a tiny bit stiff. So I'll fine tune that a little bit, and then we'll just go ahead and put that in the radio. Okay, after a little bit of finagling here, I got this to go down, and you turn it around to the open spot, and it just pops right up, and that's what you want. And when you go to put this in here, okay, on top of the box, you want the clip end here to face the front of the radio. So to do that, or to turn it to that direction, so where this little ring is on here, you want this ring to face towards the front. So now let me take these guys off. There's a lock washer on each one. That one lock washer is stuck on there, so get my magnet. See, that pulls it right off. Just like that. Okay. So now, let's see. Part of the way you could tell how this was on from the beginning was to look at the here. And it almost looks like a camshaft where you got the lobes sticking up. So where the lobes stick up, that's where this thing basically got crimped together. So it was probably something like this. Let me put it, I know it's a little bit off camera so you can't see it, so let me put it on here. And then I'll explain myself. Okay, so we'll put this up through the hole. Make sure that we're facing the front, which now we are. And then I can just slide that in place. Okay. Whoop. There we go. Oh, you know what? There's where the lobes have to go, just like that. They have to go by where the opening was, and this thing was never set up right from the factory. So let me take this back out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the. Sometimes you can do this without too much difficulty, but spin the little ring around where the clip of the antenna goes. So right now I want to put it here, so it's laying up like that. But the problem is, that's where the ring is. So you want the opening to be at the front of the radio. So let me see if I can take some pliers and move that ring. Okay, now that's the way it's going to go on. That's what the ring should look like. So now the opening is facing the front of the radio. And now I can go ahead and attach the antenna. Okay. Got that there. Washer on each one of these. And nut here. Okay, and a nut down low. And I'll just get my nut driver and start tightening these up. You may want to pay attention to when you're also tightening these nuts down, because the antenna itself, see now this is just the way you want to have it. So when you turn it toward the front, this thing pops out, but then you turn it, say 45 degrees either way, it'll go back down until you bring it back to the front, and it should pop up. So as you tighten it down, sometimes it'll want to wander either this way or this way toward the front of the radio as you tighten it. So keep that in mind as you're tightening down. Also, just watch it. Just leave yourself about I don't know, at least 1/8 of an inch around, so that you have some clearance for the top of the antenna tip. So, and life will be good. So basically, what will happen is you turn this toward the front. The white part should be facing the front. The antenna will pop out. This little line here was originally white, but of course after years of usage, it's not white anymore. Now it's more of a gray, but you get the picture. And of course, don't forget to reattach the antenna. Go through all that work and, oh wait a minute, how come this thing ain't working? Now reattach the antenna. I'm going to do it better with a pair of needle nose. A little slot for it. There it goes. Okay, next let's put the bezel on. Now would be a good time to mount the dial light. Remember the dial light we put the battery holder on? Well, here it is. And what it's supposed to do is, up top here, a little bit tough to see in the picture, we've got the top of the band switch tower, and you got to run the wire over the top of the band switch tower, and then over here, and then there's a clip here. That clip's got to go through this piece of metal here. I don't know how well you can see that. Let me get the pointer. Okay, right here. So we got to slide the dial light over that, and I got to flip it over so it's not upside down. It's amazing how many times I've done this. I still sometimes can't get it right. But we'll be okay. Okay, I run the wire to the side of it, and now I've got the dial light on there. Okay, so now it's on where it's supposed to be on. Now let's go put the bezel on. Okay, now I've got the dial light back behind the bezel. Let's see what it looks like lit up in the dark. Ooh, that's pretty cool, huh? Now you can be able to tune around in the dark. Okay, let's put the bezel on. Okay, we're ready to put the bezel on now. Here's our L600 bezel, and it's going to line up something like this. Before we attach it to the radio, however, let me point out something here. Now, all 600 series radios have the dial light control. Alright, so there are two little machine screws, something like this. I don't know if that's coming through on the camera. We got to put this dial light switch onto the back of the bezel. Now if you have an R, a T, a Y, an A, or a B600, you will have right about this part of the bezel right here a headphone jack. The L600 has it in the back, so I don't have to worry about that. 600, you're going to have the headphone jack here, so you're going to have to put on the dial light here and then the headphone jack here. Alright, so first let me attach the dial light. Okay, we've attached our dial light switch, and now first let me make sure that the band switch buttons are through their holes. A couple of them tried to come out. Okay, now we can just slide this in place. Okay, again, on the top in 4 places, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have some longer screws, look like this. Okay, those are going to go up top. Then on the bottom we have 1, 2, 3 holes here. Take the 3 screws, look like the ones on top, only they're shorter in length. Okay, and again, I can't emphasize enough, when you go to put these on here, just snug them. Don't tighten them. They don't need to be tight. You will crack the plastic and you will be crying in your coffee or your beer, your tea, your milk, whatever your beverage choice happens to be, It's going to absorb your tears when you crack, especially this beautiful reverse painted front bezel here. So, okay, I got them all hand tight. Let me tighten them up. Okay, I've tightened the screws and just till they're snug all the way around. After I've gotten that done, I went ahead and I just put on the tuning and the volume knob. And if you notice too, the volume knob has this little tab up top here, and it's actually got a purpose. When you turn this, you'll see here it's in the on the bezel reverse painted on here the word on. That's just a reminder if you're using the batteries that where you left the radio on or not, so it would use up all your battery power. Alright, now, whoops, I have this on a tripod and I just bumped it with my big belly. Down here, where your treble, voice, alto, and bass controls are, these switches down here, what you want to do is now, with everything in place, you can tighten the chassis down. So what you want to do is have these centered so that they're pretty much in an equal position. I just did that. I pushed the chassis back because it's still loose in the chassis. So that the switches have about the equal amount of space on either side, and then go ahead and push the chassis forward toward you, okay, or toward the front, and then you can bolt everything down and just make sure that you have these sticking out as far as possible, and also to check your distances from side to side. I think that just it's just a little more attention to detail. Okay, once you get the two chassis screws socked down and in place, don't forget this. See where I got my pointer up here? This is the top of the band switch assembly here, and there's a screw that goes in that hole. And let me show you what the screw looks like. Looks like this. It's probably I would guess it's just not quite, it's about 3/8 of an inch, now between 3/8 and a half an inch long. It's got a Phillips head on top. Let me go ahead and put this guy on here. Now the reason for this screw is, you might be saying, well, how come, why? You ever talk to a little child and you ask a question, you tell them the answer to the question, and why? They hit you with why a million times. Well, just lined up with the hole. There we go. The reason is so that when you start pushing into band switches, particularly on the top of the radio, like your 31, 25, and 19 meter bands, without this in place, what will happen is that you'll go to push the button in for the band, and this might actually come back and just rock a little bit to the point where it might just, the plastic button might fall out. I think that's why Zenith wanted to have that in there. Okay, we're nearing the home stretch, so I'm going to start putting in the wave magnet in the top here. Okay, now I want to take the cable, and that's what these two studs are here for. These here and here. So I want to put this in here kind of all nice and neat like. Okay, that should be alright. Just fold this over like so. Okay, get them there. And then if you look to see, here's the actual connection goes for the antenna. So let's put that in there. And what you want to do is leave some slack here so when the door opens up, if you're opening up the door, you have enough slack in the wire to put this in place. Then, I'm going to fish these guys out. These are the 2 aluminum nuts that hold this wire in place. There we go. Like so. Okay. These little snaps here are for the suction cups. Got one here. One here. Okay. And then over here, this little clasp. This Resto still retained the original owner manual and the schematic. Okay, so we're going to put these, slide both of these under the clip right here. Oh, I just knocked off the cup. Okay, and there we go.
Hilltop Nissan Studios, classic oldies, WMTR Morristown, a Beasley Media Group station.
Well, that's it. Radio's done. So now you can take yours and enjoy it for years to come. Now, what is going to happen with the radio we just did, this L600? Well, chances are, you know, I kind of sort of want to keep it, but I already have an A600 leather that I really like, and I also have an H500. There was a time where I wanted to get one of every model, but it just kind of seems redundant. I don't have a house that I want to, you know, it's big enough to make a museum out of it, so those 2 radios are fine. So I'm going to gift this one. Now, I have plans for this, and I really don't know who I'm going to gift this to yet, but that might be for the next video to come. So after you watch this video, wait a day or 2 and see what happens with the video afterward, and I think you'll see who actually is going to get this radio and enjoy it. So anyway, take care. Bye.